And then we've got, Mamba. So I don't think you have been here before. So welcome out to the live stream. You are welcome back anytime. We meet Fridays and Sundays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we meet on Friday. I usually teach a longer lesson. And then on Sunday, we kind of usually open it up for this question and answer session. Hey, Gary's here once again. Welcome, everybody. So it looks like we have a good solid team tonight. Okay, let me get a couple things ready before I answer Summer Chan's question. Welcome, by the way, Summer Chan. And not that. Where's just the piano? Oh wait, they're all labeled. There we go. Let me move this. Hey, Gregory is in the house. All right, everybody. So I'm going to talk about what is voicing. Just there we go. Okay. Hey, Rich is here. How you doing, Rich? Awesome that you could come out and hang out with us today. Okay, we have a great question from somebody in our community. Summer Chan asks, what is voicing? How is it important? A very, very good question. So I'm going to answer this using the piano mostly, but I will draw up there if I need to. Okay, voicing is really all about solving the problem of disjointed notes. So when you are playing chord progressions and things like this, and you're jumping around from chord to chord, that's just a simple 1-4-5-1 progression. Well, the problem with that is that, first of all, you have to move your hand each time, and also the sound of the notes, it's very jumpy, whereas if you use what's called proper voice leading, that sounds a lot better because the notes all move between one another in a way that makes sense. Usually you want to move notes in the smallest way possible. So once again, you're just avoiding jumping around all the notes. Now, it's like I said, it's important because it really helps music flow together rather than have that disjointed sound. And so when you are moving between each chord, what you want to do is you want to, first of all, in most music, you should start looking at music in terms of voices. So let me kind of show you what I mean here. Oops. Okay, just using this little chord here between the two hands as an example, you should really start looking at music in terms of voices. So you want to start looking at it, maybe as soprano is always the top voice, if you're doing a choir kind of thing, alto, tenor, and bass. And a lot of times when you're moving between chord and chord, you'll notice that each hand, not all the time, will keep the same amount of notes or the same amount of voices. So what you can start looking at is how each voice moves between one another. So for example, the top voice moves from C to D. You got the middle voice moving from F to G. You got the next one moving from A to G, and then the bottom one from C to D. So obviously you can start tracing them across and start seeing them in terms of actual voices. Actually, let me just draw a line to connect them. I'm not doing the best job right now. All right, and then let me do this. So as you can see, each note in the chord moves to another note in the chord. And you notice that a lot of times notes will move in a very small amount of movement between or from voice to voice. Okay, back on the piano. So what some basic voice leading rules is that you want to first look at the chords you're moving between. So say we're moving between a C major chord and an F major chord. Now, let's apply some basic voice leading rules to this. So for the first thing you want to do is you want to retain any common tones, which, as the name implies, any notes that are in common between both keys. So if you have a C major chord made of C, E, and G, actually let me get back to the piano here. I think it should show you better here. C, E, and G, and then you got an F major chord made up of F, A, and C. Which note do they have in common? Well, C, right? So when I'm moving between the C chord, C, E, and G, to the next chord, F major, I have to keep the C exactly where it is on the bottom voice. Now you're going to be moving the top voice up to the next nearest chord note. So if I have a G here in C major, you got to ask yourself what note in the F chord makes the most sense. Well, you could either actually move to an A or an F. The problem with if you move to an F, though, is that you'll have nowhere for the E to move. So in this case, you'll actually want to move it to a G, and then so you have C, E, and G going, or to an A rather, sorry. And then you want to be moving the middle voice, the E, up to an F. So sorry about that. Yeah, you're moving the G up to an A, the E up to an F, and the C is staying the same. So 2 rules. Number 1, retain any common tones. Number 2, move each voice by the smallest amount possible, usually a semitone or a whole tone, or a half step or whole step. You may be familiar with that. So if you're moving between this chord, the F major chord, which happens to be in second inversion, and you're moving to the next chord, say a G major chord, well, step number 1 is retain any common tones. Well, there aren't any. So what you got to do is you got to try to move each voice in a way that makes sense to be able to fit to the next chord. So you have A here. You want to move A up to B. You want to move the F to G. That makes sense because you have G, B, and then we need a D as well. So you're going to move the C up to a D. So if you have no common tones at all, you just have to move each one by the smallest amount possible. So that's really the answer to it. Proper voice leading is important because it really helps you. It really helps the music sound like it moves in a way that makes sense. It's not jumping all around, all over the place. And then, of course, you want to look back and really get in your mind how you want to be moving between chords when you are playing them. All right, and then let me think. What would be a good... It would be a good video for me to point you to. Yeah, I think that's what I'll do. Okay, and if you want to learn more about chords and chord progressions, I'm going to put a link in the description for you and also a pop-up that you can click on so you can learn more about this topic. All right, let's see what else we got. All right, just scrolling through some other questions we have here. Actually, I should kind of put it here so you can see what I'm doing. Let's see. Gregory, if I have the chord progression 1, 5, 6, 4, in what position should I play each chord while in this progression? Great question. All right, I love it. That's awesome. And somehow it wound up right where he needed it. That like never ever happens. Okay, our student from the live stream, Gregory, he asks, if I have the chord progression 1, 5, 6, 4, in what position should I play each chord while in this progression? So first you want to always check back to the basic rules of voice leading, which is retaining any common tones and moving each note to the next nearest note. So let's take a look at the piano, which is here. And then we're going to take a look at this. So our progression is, let's just do it in C major, make it easy on us. You want to play C major. Actually, let me bring it here. I think this is better. So you have C major. And then if you're moving to 5, right, you probably want to consider, all right, how many common tones between the C major chord and the G major? Well, just one. You have the G. You're going to be moving the E down to D, C down to B, just like that. And then let's see what else we can do. And then you have 6, which would be an A minor triad. So what would make sense here is to move them all up 1 to first inversion. I'll go over all the inversions here in a second. So if you're starting out with root position, it's root position, and then you have first inversion G major, and then you have first inversion A minor, and then with 4, this is the pop song chord progression, isn't it? There's 2 common tones here. You have the A and the C, so I'm moving the E up there to an F in second inversion. So root position, first inversion, and then you have second inversion. And I think that I cover all the chords. I did. And then also, Gregory mentions, what about the 1, 4, 5 progression as well? So again, actually, one thing I really want to mention is it really depends on what inversion you're starting with your first chord, because that will change how you're going to proceed. I mean, the same basic rules apply, but it's not going to be the same answer each time. I'm only doing what you'll have for the root position. So you have 1 C major, if you have a root position, and then you have F major in second inversion, G major in second inversion, and then you have C major in first inversion. And again, talking about voices, when you do the proper voice leading here, I want you to take note of the soprano voice, or the voice all the way at the top, and how it moves. See how it moved in a way that made sense? It just went from note to the next note, just up the scale, just like that. So that's one reason we do our proper voice leading, is to move notes in a way that isn't disjointed. Okay, fabulous question. And then I think I'm going to also kind of plug another playlist here. All right, if you want to learn more about chord progressions, of course, I'm going to have a playlist here for you in the description I want you to check out. And also there will be a pop-up as well. So thanks, everybody, and I'll see you in the next lesson. All right, I'm sticking around. I'm not leaving. I just kind of did that so when I cut the video together. All right, back here. Hey, Abigail, and Ryan is here once again. Ryan is killing it on the piano, everybody. He sent me a recording a few days ago, and I just definitely noticed some improvement in his playing. Abigail, night Tim, and night everybody. Thank you for being here for us, Tim, my lovely friend. Well, thank you so much, Abigail. I'm still going to get back to your email, but I kind of took the day off from emails today, so I will get back to you tomorrow morning. Cheryl, what is the music phrasing? GP and sheet music. I don't know. Oh, funny day. Did I forget baritone? I must have. All right. Cheryl asks, what is musical phrasing? I don't know what phrasing GP is in sheet music, and how do you play it? What? I think you mean, what is musical phrasing? The GP is really throwing me off. It might be a typo. Okay, so I'll talk about musical phrasing in music. So let me find a piece with musical phrasing, and I'll talk about that. And then if you meant something else by the GP, let me know, and we can take a look at that. Okay, our student Cheryl asks, what is a musical phrasing in sheet music and how do you play it? Well, a terrific question. Let's take a look. Okay, so here we have the Pathetique Sonata, Movement 2. And as you can see, there's phrasing. And you can see that there's phrasing because of the slur lines. They are these arcing lines. I actually can't write the pen that I have right here, right now. But as you can see that there's a line here connecting basically the first note C. Wait. All right, let me say that again. Actually, let me see if I can get this working. No. Of course, it's not going to let me do that. All right, so here we have the Pathetique Sonata, and as you can see, there are these arcing lines both above each staff and below each staff. And usually, if they are slurred lines, which is how you can tell they're phrased together, they will be covering a bunch of different notes. Try not to confuse it with a tie, which connects two of the same note. The marking looks the same, but just careful of that confusion. So what the phrasing marks tell you to do is it's basically, if you think about how you sing a song, right, or even how you speak, there's a natural cadence and there's a natural way with, obviously, like with punctuations and things like that, where you pause and you take a breath, commas and things like that. So the musical phrasing is really a way of putting the kind of the way we do phrasing in our language into music in a way that makes sense. And really the purpose of this is it really helps the notes blend together in a way that really connects the musical ideas and the melody especially. So when you have this right here, I'm going to play it without phrasing first. Without phrasing, now to the untrained ear it could be subtle. It sounded okay, but it did sound kind of chunky. So when you put in these slur lines, I'm going to be blending the notes together or connecting them. So I hope you could tell the difference in there. Listen back again if you couldn't. Now, sorry about that. Something popped up on the screen over there. Okay, and that's what it will sound like with slur line and proper phrasing. So when you're practicing music of your own, you want to be really looking for these lines. Some music doesn't have it written in at all, but a lot of times they will, and it's really to really tell you where the musical ideas are. And actually, let me give you a little bit more detail on how I'm playing this, or how I'm phrasing it together. Notice how the lines end here, like right here at the end of the second measure, right? I'm actually going to physically lift up off the pedal and also off the keys for just a tiny fraction of a second, like not even a second. And it really helps create a break in the sound between the end of that second measure and the beginning of that third measure, because as you can see, the third measure begins that next idea, which is a different idea, so it makes sense if it was slurred together. All right, so that's what general, very basic phrasing is and how it is used in music. Hey, we got Baggy Mangler here again. Hey, Timbo the Wiz in Moonlight Sonata. I noticed an X on the second page. What is the difference between an accidental and the X? I think you're probably talking about the double sharp. Okay, so you can have a sharp, which a lot of people unfortunately say is a hashtag or looks like a hashtag. When you teach kids, that's what they will call it, unfortunately. All right, anyway, you have this the sharp. So you have F sharp right there. Now, if you wanted a double sharp, it looks like this. Like a weird boxy kind of X. And all you do is instead of playing F sharp, you're going to sharp it one more time to G. Now there's a whole fancy reason of why double sharps, and double flats exist, and it really has to do with chord spelling. So really each chord has a specific combination of notes it needs to have to be that kind of chord. So for instance, like a C7 chord has to have a C, E, G, and a B in it of some kind. So when you start talking about fully diminished chords, for example, where you're bringing the top note down a couple each time, or one each time, this one is going to be a B, a double flat, rather than an A. So that's why they do exist, not just to confuse you. All right, let's see. When doing scales and arpeggios, let's see here from Mamba, is it good to move your thumb under the palm? Bump, 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 bump. It paralyzes the thumb vertically as opposed to just moving your arm laterally with your thumb just hugging the hand. I love this question. All right, let me bring this up as a formal question here. Slur equals legato, correct. Actually, slur is the symbol and playing legato is the act of playing a slur. All right, scrolling through, I got lost on the questions here. I got it now. Okay. Okay, there we go. Okay, our wonderful student Mamba asks, when doing scales and arpeggios, is it good to move your thumb underneath the palm? Seems it paralyzes the thumbs vertically as opposed to just moving your arm laterally with your thumb just hugging the hand. All right, wonderful question. So the question is basically, when you are doing multiple octave arpeggios, do you tuck under the thumb underneath to get into that second octave? And the answer is no. However, actually, you know what? I don't think I tuck it at all. So the answer is no. You don't tuck the thumb underneath at all. Instead, as Mamba suggested, when you move up, as soon as you hit this third note, you're going to move up to the next octave. So basically, as you're playing the arpeggio, your arm is naturally just moving this way. And then another tip I have for you based on this is that you also want to be pointing your finger slightly in the direction you're going. Gives you a little bit more surface area to work with. At least I think that's why they ask you to do it. It seems to work for me. So if you're moving up, you want your fingertips pointed up. If you're moving down, you want your fingertips pointing down or descending. But terrific question. All right, let's see what else we got. Adria, I almost called you Adria again. Adria, I completely forgot about the live stream. I was watching Trans-Siberian Orchestra videos. Well, that's pretty cool. From the Ghost of Christmas Eve 2017 tour. I'm here now, and we'll come up with questions as we go. All right, well, thank you very much, Adria. I appreciate that. Let's see, scroll down a bit. We are going to see, Trans-Siberia Orchestra next weekend. Look forward to it. I would be. They are awesome. Santiago says, what do you recommend doing when teaching a complete beginner? So what do I recommend? What do you recommend doing when teaching a complete beginner? What do I recommend doing? Okay, so you're asking me like a teaching question, like if I'm teaching a beginner, what do I do? Well, a good way is just to look back at my very first videos. Look through the channel at a playlist called Beginner Start Here, and they have a lot of those basic videos for beginners, and look at the topics I cover in there. But generally, my first goal when I meet a student for the first time is really to get to know them a little bit, a little bit better. And then, figure out, and the biggest part of that is knowing their history of learning music, because almost everybody has like something, you know what I mean? They either learn notes back in school, or they know about quarter notes and half notes or something, or basics about rhythm or something like that. So we go over that, figure out, what they know. Sometimes they've had a piano lessons before, so there's a lot to build off there. So a lot of times the first lesson is just figuring out all the things they know. But then generally, obviously, you want to start with the very basics. How do you find notes on the piano? How do you read music? How do you count out rhythms? What are quarter notes, half notes, whole notes, things like that. Those are the very basic things I start with. And we generally, like if you want, let me get this up here. If you want an idea on what I cover, I usually use these cards with younger students, but they have the topics I like to cover in them. So I'm just on Amazon. Music flashcards for piano. That sounds pretty good. Oh, these are mine. So complete color-coded flashcards. Pretty much anything actually on the cover right here is the stuff I, try to get them to learn. Actually, some of the stuff comes a little bit later, but really anything in those flashcards is what I do, because with younger students, they seem to do well with flashcards. Some of them. Every student, though, is a little bit different, and some students, you're going to have to try a different approach. Can you later cover some jazz chords and their progressions? Yes. So not today, but that is on the list. Awesome, says Adria. I'll be seeing them at Fort Wayne. Okay. I have not done much on modulations, but I am planning on it for sure. All right, Christopher says, Master, how about do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do? Can you give some tips on how I can memorize that with the keys? I did what? I can't see it. I did. Did you get my point? Thanks, Master. Okay. Okay, our student Christopher in the chat asks, Master, how about do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do? Can I get some tips on how I can memorize that with the keys? Did you get my point? Thanks, Master. Yeah, I can answer this question. I don't use that a lot in my teaching because I'm a piano teacher, and that's just really how I learn piano. I did learn that's called the solfege system, by the way. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, up the scale. Now, there's a bunch of different things. My memory, hopefully, is not going to fail me on this, but, well, I obviously know the basics behind it. So there's one called movable do. where whatever the first note of whatever scale you're in is do. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Just like that. Now, if you move to another scale, do now is in G instead of C. If you are in E, do is then going to be E. So here's how the basics work. So do is always the first note of the scale, re is the second, E is the third, E is the third. Re is do, re, mi is the third. So do, re, mi, fa, so, la, ti, do. And then ti, la, so, fa, mi, re, do. So that's with the movable do system. If I'm in the key of G, then it's do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Just like that. Now, if it's fixed do, then do will always be in the same spot. It'll always be C. At least I believe that's what do is. So I think everything then is just always based on where it is on C. I'm not really nearly as familiar with fixed do. I use movable do whenever I learned it, which makes sense to me because if I'm in the G major scale, I can just visualize so much better that this is so, la, ti, do. I don't want to be like re, mi, fi, so if it's related to C. Like, I just don't like that. But it could just be because of the way I learned it. So those are the very basics of the what we call the solfege system. All right, Gregor says, thank you for answering my questions. You're welcome. Hey, Ryan, is the recording on the channel? Let's see. You're very welcome, Ryan. Oh, go a typo. Okay. FC, what are the best places to download sheet music? imslp.org. imslp.org. Go there. Or Pinterest. Seriously, go on Pinterest and type in whatever title of the song you want plus sheet music. And I found that a lot of times, not every time, but a lot of times you can find some free sheet music there, but sometimes you can only find the first page. Chris asked, excuse me, mouth is a little dry here, my throat is. Chris asked, do I play any other instruments? If so, why is piano much harder than others? Which comes up a lot for sure. So, I did play trombone for a while, and then bass guitar for a while as well, but I really stuck with piano over the years. Piano is more difficult than the others. They really say you should learn piano if you want to pick up any other instrument a bit easier. And really the most obvious thing is that you really have to be reading two clefs at the same time. And even then, in a lot of cases, there's multiple voices, as we talked about earlier in the lesson, going on in between each hand. So you're really like looking at 5 lines of music rather than just one line of music. Okay. Ryan says, complete beginner. That was me 1 year ago and started same with the intro playlist. Well, thank you. I knew nothing about reading music. Never heard the term middle C before. Well, I was so glad I could help you out, Ryan, and that you've gotten a lot from our lessons. That's fantastic. Santiago, you're very welcome. Okay, Rich asks, Tim, can you go over your time in music school? What was the process like, and what courses did you have to take? Wonderful question. So the answer is I started going in 2006, and it literally crushed me when I first got there, just because back then, I was only 18 at the time, and I was an idiot. So I really didn't know how to manage my time right. So it really was like, is really beating me up pretty good in the beginning. And then I just kind of learned to manage my time a bit better and got easier. So you have to take an audition to get into music school, and you have to basically do a series of like playing. You have to really learn like maybe I don't know, maybe like 4 or 5 pieces that they want you to learn from like different time periods that contrasting time periods. So you maybe like learn a Bach, a Chopin, a Beethoven, something from those different time periods. Something maybe a bit more recent. By recent, I'd be like 1900s or so. But they made us take a lot of things I teach you on the channel. I mean, they made us obviously take piano. I had to take piano every semester. We music students always had to take way more classes than everybody else because our classes, for some reason, weren't worth as much. Not sure. I guess they had a lot to teach us. But you had to take piano, which basically what that entailed is you meet up with your private lesson professor once a week, and they basically help you get a series of pieces ready, maybe between 3 and 6 pieces ready by the end of the semester. A lot of times they are pretty lengthy and difficult, and basically you have to learn these pieces and clean them up, get them memorized, and play them in front of all the other professors, all the other music professors at the end of each semester. Now, some students this really freaked out, but I always did really well with that. I'm actually not bad at all at public speaking. I think I'm pretty good at it, and it's pretty comfortable for me, which is odd because sometimes I'm like kind of awkward in social situations. I do well most of the time, but sometimes it's just I don't know, the people don't jive with me or whatever, but I do surprisingly well with talking in front of people. But there's also music theory, that I teach on the channel often. There were you had to take a ton of music theory. Like you had to take 4 levels, and then you had to take, depending on what your major was, some additional ones. I took jazz composition and harmony. I took pop music composition, just the ones that I can remember off the top of my head. And ear training was the bane of my existence, because ear training was all about hearing. Hearing intervals was fine and chords was fine. It took a little getting used to for some of the 7th chords and the inversions, but you had to know all that, and then you had to do what's called dictation, where they'll play a song for you, and they'll be like, "All right, write it down." I mean, it won't be the entire song, but it'll be like 8 measures. And you only get, sometimes it was like brutal. Sometimes it was like 4 playthroughs. But sometimes they gave you like 8 playthroughs. And you had to, get the melody. First, you would get the rhythm down. And then you would get the basics of the melody, like the skeleton of the melody, what that's doing. And then you fill that in. Each playthrough, you fill in more and more information until you get as close to the real thing as possible. So that was crazy. And we had music history. We had to learn a ton about music history. 3 levels of that at least. I think I even took 4 levels of it. And I had to play with recitals. Oh, you had to take men's choir or some kind of choir. You had to learn like 2 instruments a semester for a while until like you learned all of them. That actually didn't take as long. That only took like half of my time there, luckily. And then composition and things like that. So that generally wraps it up. It was an amazing experience, and really beat me in a submission is probably why I'm a hard worker today, is because of my time there. Because before I went there, I was like an idiot. I swear. I don't know if I was an idiot. Well, at 17 or 18, I was an idiot. But I don't know. I've grown a lot since then, but I think going to music school really, really helped. Okay, let's see here. I just watched Tim's YouTube vids and then joined. Thank you very much, Ryan. Ryan is a member of my website, by the way, pianolessonsontheweb.com, where I have a lot of courses over there where you can learn a lot more about piano music. But one thing I want to tell you, actually, if you're listening to this right now, wait until Tuesday. So if you don't know about my website, go over there. and then check it out, and then check around for Tuesday. There's going to be a video released and an announcement if you're a part of the email chain. So look out for Tuesday. Okay, let's see. Brian, yeah. Tim, I want to buy an 88-key digital piano. Which one would you recommend for me? My budget is up to $600. So the Yamaha YPG 535 is around $500. As Rich, I almost called him Brian, as Rich has pointed out below. I have a lesson that I want you to take a look at. So let us get in here. So type in keyboard buying guide into YouTube, and my lesson should appear first. Ooh, I think I moved up in the chain. I think it was second a while ago. Back. There we go. Okay, so check out this lesson. This one's mine. The Piano Keyboard Buying Guide. And actually, I have links in the description of some keyboards that I recommend. You can pick them up on Amazon, and then actually it will help out the channel. It won't cost you anything, but that's totally optional. So if you're looking, well, you said $600, so you're probably not going to be buying a Roland or anything like that. You're very welcome, Rich. Summer Chan says, you can do one whole session sharing your time in music school. This is fresh and so much fun. Well, that's really great to know. So sometime I will maybe kind of write down my thoughts and do a whole lesson just going over my time there, taking questions about that, and then maybe just talking about, if anybody is interested in going into music school, what they should prepare for and what they should really look for. I think that would be a pretty good lesson, actually. Baggy Mangler says, purchase the lessons from his website. They are great. Thank you very much, Baggy Mangler. So that's pianolessonsontheweb.com once again. But go over there and read about them, and then you want to hang around on Tuesday, like I said, because I have an announcement. But you definitely want to go over there and check those out. Friendly Person says, do you have any tips or videos on bounce playing? No, but I'm not sure exactly what bounce playing is. Other than keeping your arms kind of bouncy, let me look up more about that before I get back to you, because I don't want to start talking about something if I'm confused about it. Oh, Ryan says, Tim, where can I hear some of your original compositions besides the lessons you make? I don't know. I had a MySpace a long time ago, but I don't even remember what it's called. So I'd have to look that up. And then I don't know if I have some hanging around somewhere, so that I wrote like a few summers ago. So I'd have to get those up for you. Sorry about yawning, everybody. I'm starting to get kind of tired. I was up early this morning. Hey, Fireflower's back once again. Thank you, Fireflower. Summer Chan says, were the music professors hard on you like the one in Whiplash? Maybe not that hard. How to breathe. All right, you inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. What? Oh, sorry, Fuddy Duddy, that you had to run. Have a great one. Okay, everybody. All right, looks like we are actually at the end of the questions. I always feel like when I do these question things, I like get started and I'm like, oh man, I'm never ever gonna get to the end of these in a good way. Like I'm like, oh man, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, we got him, we got through them. So if I missed any questions, let me know. All right. Ryan asks, when will you start learning on the pedal? I actually need more lessons on the pedal. As you start to get into Beethoven, playing the piano level 4, you will start seeing the pedal in the music more often. But the pedal marking, like I said, I need to make some lessons in there now that you bring that up. But I will put those in. Okay. Okay, the pedal marking looks like this. It's written below the music. It says sometimes it doesn't even say PED, so don't worry about it whether it does or not. So how this works is that it's a line that goes across, and when the line is going across, you have the pedal pressed down. See how there's little spikes there each measure, each time the chord moves? Well, you're going to pop up the pedal real quick each time you move between chords. Just like that. And really, the reason behind that is it really helps prevent the notes from blending together too much. Abigail says, thanks again for good teaching. Thank you very much for your patience and time to help you. Well, thank you very much. I'm not going right this second, but thank you. I appreciate the kind words. It seems like I missed a lot, says Fireflower. Well, sorry about that. That's okay. Lion says, do you know any good electric pianos that are under $200 and that has 88 keys? Not under 200. The cheapest one I can think of. Let me bring you to Amazon again. Is this like Alyssa's recital thing with semi-weighted keys? Now, semi-weighted keys, from what I remember, are like spring, like half spring-loaded. They're better than, they're a little bit better than just hollow plastic keys. But this one is $209.99, and this is seriously the cheapest keyboard that has 88 keys that I would buy if I didn't, have any other, if that was something in my budget I was looking for. Yeah, I would say that's probably the cheapest one I know about. I would definitely, if you get the opportunity. Now, obviously, if it takes you a long time to save 100, then you probably want to go for this Alessis recital piano. But the Yamaha YPG 535, if you can get that $500, would be probably the way to go. But this, I don't think would be too bad if you don't have a whole lot of options in terms of your budget. Battery low for Barbara. Sorry about that. Ryan asked which pedal, right or middle? Right. Yeah. Always the right, right? So left is soft, middle is the sostenuto, and the right. So whichever, it's the sustain pedal. You hold it down, and when you play, the note keeps on ringing. Okay, thank you. You're very much, you're very welcome, Lion. Thank you for your lesson, Tim. You're very welcome, Cheryl. So the left one's soft, the middle one is sostenuto. So a lot of times with a sostenuto, you press it down, and it'll make certain notes ring out. I think the bottom note or something like that. I'd have to look at it again to be sure. But actually, when you're playing the piano, the left and middle pedals aren't used 99.9999999% of the time. Seriously. You're only going to be using the sustain pedal. The soft pedal, from what my piano teacher always taught me in college, is cheating, and that you shouldn't use the soft pedal. You should do it with your own hands and arm weight. I have a piano, but it's not a keyboard. Does it similar tune? Yeah, so it kind of depends on how in tune your piano is, but they should sound similar. Okay, Fireflower says, I saw an Alessa's on display on a store a few months ago. It's an okay keyboard, but it doesn't feel weighted at all. It looks nice, though, and sounds good. Okay, so there we go. So the keys probably are a little bit lackluster, and then, um, you know, so you kind of get what you pay for, but like I said, if you don't have any other options, it might not be a bad way to go. Chris says, why don't I have a real piano? I do have a real piano. However, real pianos are kind of a pain, in my opinion, because they need to be tuned. And actually, my real piano is kind of a piece of junk. The other drawback to a real piano is they take up a lot of space. Grand piano obviously will take up a lot more space, but even a stand-up, and they're heavy. Like, they have a giant steel frame in there. If you've ever opened up a piano. So they are heavy, they're hard to move. If you ever have to go out and play for anybody or anything, like you move, a piano is a pain, like a real pain. It really is. Now, if you're situated in your home and you have a nice spot for your piano and you have access to one and it sounds good, and you're not going to be moving at rooms a lot, then I would say go for it. But I just do not, I just don't go for the real piano. Unless I had like a Steinway Grand. If I could afford one of those, then obviously I'd be teaching lessons on that. That would be awesome. Esmeralda, you're welcome. Let's see. Okay, hold on. Middle pedal only works sustain after you push the key. Yeah, so that's what it does. Yep. Okay, I got you. So start using the right pedal, Ryan. That's the one you want. Esmeralda, all right. Jojo, how can I constantly be motivated through the learning process of music theory? I'm always uninterested, and I know that it is essential that I learn it. I literally drag myself to the bench. Well, in the beginning, that's what you have to do for music theory if you don't like music theory. But what I would try to do is I would try to start applying the music theory. So when you're learning new piano songs, sit down and chart out the chords and what's going on with the song. And actually, the faster and better you can do with that, the better you'll be able to apply it while you're playing. And actually, it'll help your playing a lot. You'll know, like, oh, this is a scale right here. I know the scale has a sharp, F sharp. I know the chords that are supposed to be in the song. It really makes things a lot easier. So start actually trying to apply your knowledge to what you're playing. So when you sit down with a new piece, sit down, look at it, and really analyze what's going on music theory wise. Another thing I recommend you do is start writing some compositions, some basic compositions, some songs, or even doodling around on the piano using your music theory knowledge can be really nice. So you can make little songs once you get good enough at it. All right, hold on. Nose is itchy. Yeah, Rich is absolutely right. Learning music theory makes it easier to learn how to play piano. Very true. Let's see. Ryan, I heard that there are pianos with silencers on them. The piano guys, pianos use one. Yeah, they have like mutes, like little mutes. Yeah, so you have a nice piano, Ryan. I really like the sound of that one. If you have a place for a grand, it's amazing. Yes, piano tuning is fairly costly. I would say it's like $200, maybe 150 to 200, and you should get it done like twice a year. Should. Most people don't. The best exercise to start with your hand to play piano would be like learning a scale. Start learning, C major scale. Then, G major scale, D major scale, things like that. Actually, you want to check out next Friday's lesson because next Friday's lesson is all about the practice routine for learning how to play two hands together. So you want to check that out because that'll be highly relevant to your question. So check back then. But you want to start with scales, and you want to play your scales every day. But start by learning one scale and learning to play it well. Learning piano is less hard for somebody already played electric guitar. Probably will be a little bit easier because some of that knowledge will carry over, especially if you learn how to play guitar by reading music. Now, if you learned by doing the tablature, I think there still would be some skills that carry over with coordination and things like that. So it'll make it a little bit easier, I think, especially if you've learned music theory as well. All that information is universal. Tuning only costs around $120. All right, really good. That's really good, Ryan. That you can get it for that. I've heard that it can cost more than that if your piano requires. I think I'm really thinking if your piano requires any kind of parts or like any sort of redoing of any kind. Like if your piano really hasn't been tuned in a long time, the tuner really needs to go through it a few times actually to get it tuned up. All right, bye-bye, Barbara. Yeah, Ryan, so get on those music theory courses. Adria, yeah, no problem. I think it depends on brand name. Okay, the piano features. Not over here, Rich. Yeah, it depends on where you're from as well. Edison says, love your videos, Tim. I'm always watching, but rarely make a comment. Well, Edson, sorry. Thank you very much, Edson. I appreciate you making the comment and showing up today. It's really, really awesome to be able to teach everybody here at live. Okay, looking for that on Friday. Thanks. Okay, let's see here. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm going to answer like these two questions that I see right here. Chris says, "Sorry for all the questions. If I only practice scales for 3 months and didn't practice anything else, would my play dramatically increase?" No. I mean, your playing of scales would dramatically increase because you'd be concentrating just on that. But you really want to be learning some pieces. So whenever you sit down, generally when you're learning piano, you want to have the following. You want to have a warm up. So you want to be learning like a scale or a hand in exercise, some kind of exercise, really to get your hands and mind moving. And don't get me wrong, that's a learning experience of itself because you have to learn the scales and then play them. But you want to start out with a few scales, and then you really want to be learning anywhere between 1 and I'd say 3 piano pieces at a time, all designed to really help you learn different things. And you also don't want to learn a piece that's too far outside of your level. So you want to warm up like scales, and then you also want some pieces that you're working on that are manageable for you. What do I think of a Yamaha piano? Yamahas make decent pianos. I've played on them. They're fine. It's not a Steinway, but it's pretty good. Curtis says, sorry, Curtis. All right. Best songs for beginners to just start learning, playing songs you know. Best songs for beginners to just start. Okay. I recommend things like, actually like lullabies, and it sounds rudimentary and childish, but, children's songs and things like that. One thing I recommend, excuse me, is go to YouTube and type in piano songs for beginners. And mine's not coming up. That's a problem. Maybe I didn't. Okay, there it is. You want to look up on YouTube how to find easy piano songs for beginners. And that will give you a little bit more insight. It always does this when I get into this view. But anyway, it will give you a little bit more insight into what to look for. Here it goes again. I didn't even click there. Anyway, gives you a little bit more insight on what to look for when looking for pieces. All right, everybody. So we are getting to the end of the stream, so I apologize. I will have to cut off the questions here. So save your questions. We will definitely have another question and answer session sometime soon. Also, I think I'm not losing my voice, but I really need a drink of water. But we are getting to be about that time. So save your questions for next time. Write them down. I apologize if I didn't get to them, or you can ask me. Well, ask me in the comments later. Some of these I wouldn't really be able to answer there, but save them. We're going to meet again next Sunday for the question and answer session, so bring them then. I'd be more than happy to answer them there. All right, everybody. I want to thank everybody so much for coming out. I think there were so many names. I can't list them all. You know who you are. Curtis, Esmeralda, Edson. We had a lot of new and returning students, which was just awesome. Be sure to browse around the channel. I feel like a lot of people do now know, but if you go on the channel and you click on playlists, actually, if you scroll down, you can you can see the playlist organized here. So check out the playlist, scroll down on the main channel page, and, really go and indulge yourself in learning about these different topics. If you're a beginner, you really want to start right here with your learning to really get a good sequence going, because if you just start with the newest videos I have, you're probably going to be pretty confused. So you want to start there so you know what's up. All right, you're very welcome, everybody. Yeah, Mary Had a Little Lamb is a perfect one. He said you'll just end up sounding like the guy who practices scales a lot. Agreed. You're very much welcome, Chris. See you soon. Thanks for the lesson. Tim, have you already made videos about chords like augmented seventh, dominant seventh, and how they are constructed? Can you tell me the title of those videos? Yeah, if you go... If you click on playlists and you look for... Where's the more playlist button? I don't know. Let me see. How to learn chords on piano. I don't know, like playlist? No. Here we go. Learning chords on piano. Oh, no, I did recently. It's called How to Play All Types of Seventh Chords Plus Fingering. Check that out. That's a pretty new lesson. But if you type into Google how to play... Actually, let me get you a link for this. I'll link it to you, and then I'll just say goodbye one last time. Okay. Okay, so that is the link to the lesson about the seventh chords. All right, thank you so much, everybody, for coming out. I really, really appreciate your continued support by coming to the lessons. Make sure to check out pianolessonsontheweb.com if you want to learn more about piano music, or if you want to browse around on the channel for the playlist. That's just as good. So thanks everybody for coming out. I'll check you out on next Friday, and have a terrific Thanksgiving if you celebrate Thanksgiving. I know I'm looking forward to it. One of my favorite holidays. You'll hear from me throughout the week. As you notice, I've been releasing these questions as mini lessons throughout the week. But then I also have a something coming out on Tuesday. You should be on the lookout for. So thanks everybody for coming out, and I'll talk to you real soon. You know who it is, Tim from Lessons on the Web. And thank you so much for making our classroom what it is. I really appreciate it, and I couldn't have done it without you.